Hello. Okay, this is my first day streaming on YouTube on my iPad, so I hope it works. Look at my hair. Hi. Hi, everybody. Welcome. How are we doing? Hi, Kay. So fun to see everybody. Hi. I missed you all. I feel like this week has felt like a bajillion years. Am I the only one? I'm going through some deep, like retrograde medicine of so many things happening. So there's been some beautiful, amazing things this week, but also just some like, oof, I am tired. Stevie Medina, hi. Oh, I need to talk to you. We need to catch up and chat. I love what Stevie does. Everyone should go follow her. I want to talk to you about your new, and I saw you're readjusting your brand. We should have a chat, but Stevie was the host of one of my favorite astrology podcasts and the Starry Alignment Collective. Playing around with the filter today. I know these energy right now of like what is going on. I don't know. Like time is buzzy and Gemini, and I'm getting so much just deep medicine of like all these things. So many things returning. Ooh, I'm putting on. I don't even know. So much to talk about. Okay, I'm gonna settle down. I need to ground down. Let's take a breath for a second. I'm laughing too hard. I have a really important, fun, special guest coming on today. Her name's Alicia Swizz. She does so many amazing things, but she's the founder and creator of We Are, I think, Feminist Happy Hour, it's called. We Are Slut Talk and the Feminist Happy Hour. Guys, literally, Gemini season turns out makes me feel like I am high as a kite on some weird, like, off-brand party drug, because I'm like, what's happening today? I don't know. So I just keep like needing to ground down, and it's all exciting, and I'm getting so many ideas, and there's so many like fun collaborations in the works. But oh Lord, I am not ready. I'm not ready for this party drug just yet. I'm still like dusting off the energy of Taurus season from my bed. Okay, so let's just see here. How are we doing? How are we feeling? Happy new moon, everyone. That's a big thing to talk about. Happy new moon. Happy solar return season to all my gregarious, charming, chatty, just charismatic Geminis. I love you. I love this energy. I do. It's so funny that like this Gemini season coming on now with some things reopening and some things, slowly, gently, mindfully, like seeing where we can come out of like the full stop quarantine that I've been in for like 60 plus days. So like it's so it's so Gemini season. Like I'm just like, I want to see everyone. I want to do things. I want to get dressed up. Like I did my hair and makeup today for some YouTube stuff, and I'm like Gemini season. Like I want to flirt. I want to be fun. I want to go out. So there's so many like we had an amazing Gemini new moon circle last night. And we talked about relationship healing and relationship to ourselves, and we talked about just so many of the ways that we can begin to rewrite our story. And this Gemini, new moon, obviously there's so many planets in Gemini right now. We have Mercury, we have Venus, we have now the sun and the moon. We have like the north nodes are in Gemini, the lunar nodes are in Gemini. And I always think about, we're getting to examine partnership, but we're also getting to re-examine like and rewrite our stories. And there's this like openness, this, as my friend Jamie and I call it, conscious confusion that happens when things get so wide open. And also things get open is kind of like a metaphor for our society right now, but there's this opening. Like Gemini is this like blue sky, and it's so expansive, and with that can come sometimes in confusion or overwhelm. But it's also about like using that opening and harnessing it to be like, okay, if this is open, I can rewrite it, then all bets are off. I don't have to go back the way I came, and I can really use this to get really clear, Gemini, on like where I can not have to live in the old rules and the old stories. So that feels really important. There's so many um, just like new moon activations. Gemini is such a clear, it's air sign. Mercury, there's so much like clearing and opening happening that it feels like opening, reset. But it also reminded me, I keep calling it the blank journal page, but I also had this download this morning because Gemini air is like feels really electric to me and really open and charged. It also has the feeling of like a system reboot, like of your computer, or like, oh wow, like I went to go log on my computer and all the apps and folders and Word documents are gone. And there's that overwhelm of like, oh, this is so open and new. Oh my goodness. But then also you can step into that freedom of like this new, like, oh, okay, has anyone ever had that? Like had something crash or like delete all your photos off your phone or delete something and you were panicking, but then you're like, actually it feels really good that my inbox just got all deleted. So someone asked about the time for the new moon I see up here. It's 1:38 Eastern Standard Time is when the moon officially hits the sun, conjunct, they kiss in the sky. So I'm gonna bring on Alicia right now. We're gonna have a little chat and any questions as they come up, feel free to drop them. We're gonna be talking about gender roles and pop culture and all the fun things, the experience and storytelling, which is very Gemini new moon. So hi Alicia. Hi.
Hi.
What's going on? How are you doing? How are you feeling today?
I'm good.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Oh, sometimes the
I'm
lives
doing great.
gets weird. Hi. You're doing great? You're feeling good? So
I'm feeling good. I feel your Gemini season, like just, it's a wild time right now for the culture, and I am going through my own, personal work and journey as we all are. That's just a lot of stuff aligning in a real trippy way.
yes, very trippy way. I like that. I love that. Yeah, someone said Jeff Hinshaw, who has the Instagram Cosmic Cousins, who I think like I saw that he
Yeah.
follows you, or he posted about you weirdly, and like I love his work, and I was like, that's so funny. I'm talking to Alicia today, and I saw that he posted something like this energy right now is also that like cosmic communicator, like this like cookie crumbs, cosmic cookie crumbs, and we keep getting these little like hints and symbols and signals and like things are aligning and it's a lot of energy but it's a cool and I like the way that he framed that. Yes, Kay pointed out that I'm an off-brand angel dust outside Gemini Club on 5th. That's like literally how I feel energetically. Like thank you for just wrapping that up so poetically.
Yes.
um, so Alicia, why don't you introduce yourself to the community, tell people about yourself, what you do, a little bit of your story.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. And I love the Instagram astrology community, especially. I found so much connection, especially in the last few years. So I'm so grateful for the work you do. And you mentioned Jeff, who I just adore. And I am, let's see, I've been an adjunct professor of gender studies for over 10 years. So I got a master's degree in gender studies in 2008, and I went the education route after being a creative and a bartender, and still ended up doing stuff like that. But I've mainly been an educator for most of my career. But I love using entertainment and pop culture and the things in our world that can be problematic, but that we really, enjoy and have informed our experience. So I teach gender studies through a media lens. So I use media and pop culture to help people understand the way we use biological categories of sex to understand who we are as men and women. That's kind of my academic spiel. And then I'm a performer of stand-up comedy and I do live storytelling. So I started doing stand-up comedy when I moved to Chicago in 2010. And I took a class called the Feminine Comique. Just shout out to all women stand-up class. It was created by Cameron Esposito, who I would definitely recommend looking up their work in the world of comedy. And it was just such a safe, exciting container to be able to explore what is a very like toxic and male dominated area, stand-up comedy. And I didn't even realize until I started going out to open mics and performing. You know, I'm 41, so like I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Like I remember Andrew Dice Clay. You know, like I remember
Yes.
Ellen and like yeah, like right? He was the bouncer in Pretty in Pink. Okay.
Can we? Oh my God, that brings me back to a place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here to bring y'all back. Yeah, so I was just so overwhelmed. You know, I started going out, and like I said, I took a class that you would get like a cohort of women who are maybe in class with you and be like, hey, do you want to support each other and go out to an open mic? And then you get there, and it's just like all dudes. The guys getting on the mic are either talking shit about their girlfriends or like telling sexist jokes. Like I remember, like for me, the straw that broke the camel's back was I was at a mic actually run by women, and a guy. It was still a multi-gender open mic, but it was run by women in a women's group. And this guy got up and like told a rape joke, like explicitly, like yeah, and like
What?
and the rape, yeah, well, like the punchline was, if the joke was something along the lines of like, my girlfriend won't have anal sex with me, but I'll just wait till she falls asleep. Like something, yeah. Girl,
First I was eye rolling, and I think I pulled a muscle, and my eye hurts from eye rolling so hard. But now I'm just sacred rage, pissed off. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and like you're pissed off, but you're also like par for the course. Hey, this is what it's like to be a woman in the world. And I remember in the moment, because at this point, I'm only like 6 months into my stand-up career.
Yeah. What year was
but
this?
I'm like 4 years into teaching gender studies, you know? And so I'm like, who the fuck do these dudes think they are, you know? Meanwhile, you're watching these women who are already outnumbered try to like navigate it, you know? Like, how do you call someone out? And then there's this just whole bullshit, not just boys club, but like informal rule system in comedy, which is basically that no joke is off limits. And I'm here to tell you that's fucking bullshit.
Thank you.
Like, dude, who wants to make racist and sexist jokes? Like, we know.
That's actually off limits. Like, yeah. Like, okay.
So I was like, fuck this. I'm starting my own show. I was like, I'm starting my own show, and I'm not going to open mics anymore. And I didn't even think about this until now, but if there are any women out there thinking like the only path to success in stand-up comedy is like going out late night to shitty mics, like being surrounded by like fucking gross dudes, like you don't have to do that. Just don't do it, you know? And it is changing, but that was the birth of Feminist Happy Hour. And really what I wanted to do with Feminist Happy Hour was I honestly just wanted to have like a feminist happy hour. Like I wanted
just not just a clever name, just
yeah, like, I was like, let's get drunk and like just be the people we are in real time without the like battle that we're
right.
facing.
That sounds so exhausting, the other navigating space, especially when you have, I'm sure, super talented comedians, writers who are like, let us do our shticks, because we have some good ass shticks right now, but like this other stuff is exhausting. Okay, so I love that. I love that.
It's so exhausting. Yeah, no one can keep up with that. And you know, I started doing stand-up just because I wanted to. I'm not out here like I'm trying to be the next like last comic standing. Like the reason I do stand-up, and I think a lot of people have a challenge with this too, because again, it resists the traditional norms of comedy. And that's kind of my whole MO, is just resisting any status quo that says this thing has to be this way, especially if the person who said this thing has to be this way was a fucked up problematic white dude. Like, y'all don't make my rules.
One more time for everyone. Yeah, fucked up, cisgender, heteronormative, white dudes. Like, just like that's like right, like these norms. And this is, I just wanted to stop and just hold the space for everything you just said to digest it, because this is exactly why I was happy we were talking about like this
I can go
Taurus into Gemini, because in our like Cosmic Boss like group coaching container, we're talking about like these energies that we're in right now are like channeling this like sacred rebel meets like divine messenger of like what's pissing me off and what can I do about it, and then like how am I going to speak on it. So everything you just said is such a beautiful illustration, and then part of that sacred rebel and being pissed off and the messenger is literally challenging like who said and says who said these are the rules, and like I can't do that, like says who, like this is so important. This is such a stretching good like life-giving exercise that you're even teaching people through your storytelling right now. So you go on. So from there, Feminist Happy Hour was born. How did that go? How did that feel?
It really ended up being like it ended up being a comedy showcase. For women, I started off saying women identifying. We say women and non-binary. You know, it's just, you can't say no men. If you say no men, people get mad at you. They don't want to come. You're like the bitchy feminist. I'm like, I have no problem being the bitchy feminist, trust me. But so the language can be a little trippy, but the point is it's a space for amplifying marginalized voices that identify as in a feminine forward way, you know? And in the world of stand-up comedy, it's just really important to have spaces like that carve out, you know, either a gender specific or just like a safe space for one group. And Chicago has a lot of great rooms right now that are creating, you know, very specific things. And so it was a comedy showcase. It ran for 4 years and it still runs, but I don't live anywhere right now, so I'm trying to figure out. And then Slut Talk was sort of Slut Talk really came out of my own experiences just as an adolescent girl, and how so much of my work and identity in the world is still informed by that and what happened to me then. And the research that I did in gender studies is around how teen girl identity is formed, and the media is so influential on that. It's influential on all of us, but girls are especially influenced. And again, just going back to what you said, that's what I teach a lot. I try to remind people, like, who creates the media? Like, who's writing the narratives you're watching? Who directed it? You know? Like, I love Sex and the City, but like 90% of the episodes are directed by a gay white dude. Like, come on.
It's very funny that we don't challenge. I don't think I really started to consciously think about this until a few years ago. And maybe like obviously the Me Too movement kind of like put on blast of like, this is all these men doing these things, and this like things that you're watching about romance or how your body should feel, or even when you have a story that feels empowering from like a female identifying lens or something from a marginalized community, like then you look and you're like, oh no, the director is like a white cisgendered, usually heteronormative man. And so it's like, yeah, that's interesting. That's super interesting to think about.
And people are like, well, what am I supposed to do about it? And that's what I think really keeps people away from things. And I know a lot of times that keeps more like traditional cis men even away from feminism, because they're just like, how do I belong here, you know? So with Slut Talk, what I really wanted to do, and what I still want to do, it's just a constant project. Right now it's mainly online, but when I started it, I wanted women talking about sex, like, period. Like, and if that includes your trauma, but if it doesn't, awesome. Like, get up there and talk about your kinky shit. Like, get up there and talk about your period sex. Like, get up there and just normalize the fact that women have sex, women are sexual beings, not just objects. Women know how to see themselves outside of the male gaze, even if you don't, you know, like, and so slut is obviously not a word that everyone identifies with, but in our like cultural collective, we've really used that word as a moniker for any woman that deviates from the traditional way of being a woman. And so, like, I use myself, for example, right? I'm cisgendered, so that means I was born biologically with female genetics, and I also identify as a woman, which is a choice. That's a whole thesis right there. So DM me if you need help with that one. But so that's a very privileged position. I'm white, another very privileged, the most privileged position in America. I'm straight. My relationships are the norm out there. And yet with all of that, I'm 41 and single. I don't have kids, you know, I have tattoos, I smoke. I mean, these seem like all real surface level things, but it's just one thing. I have an STD, right? I talk about sex. I do stand up comedy. I curse. I drink. I mean, y'all know we could just keep going, and it's a continuum of horrible to like, oh, big deal. Some guy called me a bitch on the subway, you know, because that fucking happens every day. But none of it is acceptable, you know, and it all comes out of this root idea that women are not their own people. Women are not valuable without men. Women are only here for their biological offerings.
Wow.
And then that, yeah, when you get into opening up gender as a spectrum, then it just
amplifies and compounds.
It amplifies, and unfortunately, which I think is still showing itself, it can be even more dehumanizing because people can look at a trans individual and go, they're not like me, so I can accept that they're not like me, and that's like not any better because that's not true, and it still is rooted in this idea of men are this and women are this, and there is no gray area, when of course we know it's all fucking gray area.
Right, which speaks to, like, if there's one style of feminism that I have sacred rage against, the swerf and turf land is like, get the fuck out of here with that. Like when someone's like, I went to an event a few years ago, it was just like, I never had seen, I had been invited to something, I was like, okay, and it was a turf, like a trans exclusionary radical feminism kind of thought process, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Like, you're trying to get this far and fight and tap into all the sacred rage, but, no. So, one thing I want to point out is I want to think about, with your container you created here. It's like, okay, you made something that was, I think a lot of people can speak to, of like, this thing didn't work for me, so I'm going to create a new container. And then within that, Kay has a question of like, having feminist happy hours, do you ever do things that are like, okay, like you just said, privilege, the gender normative, like cisgender, sort of like that. Like, do you ever, I don't know how big your group is with the happy hour, or do you ever do things where like, okay, like this is gonna be a night for just even like the even more and more like marginalized communities, or do you do anything around that, or how does that feel, or like kind of that concept of like passing that mic? Because I think we're all starting to be like, okay, like this is, there's so many levels to this. There's like the Hollywood level where I feel like maybe no one's on this page, and then we're starting to get down deeper into like these niche markets where we're like, okay, like people who have been told to shut up and sit back and just look pretty or whatever their role is can now come forward. But like essentially to be radical and revolutionary and progressive, we have to keep like pushing that voice out and pushing that microphone over. So have you, through We Are Slut Talk or Feminist Happy Hour, like thought about that?
Yeah, more so with Slut Talk, simply because Feminist Happy Hour became like so comedy specific that it was just some kind of container for comedy. But what I will say about Feminist Happy Hours, I do the booking, or I did up until 2019, where I hired 2 people to host it. And it's a showcase, so the lineup has 5 to 6 folks on the lineup. And we've never had a lineup that was like all cis white women. So but no, we don't do specialized nights really. Like, and the show's once a month. So and then with Slut Talk, I modified Slut Talk into another version of a show called Kiss and Tell that I did for a year, and I would love to bring this back in some sense. And it was sort of like a live dating and advice column, and we do it in a bar. So already it's 21 and up, and that can be limiting. So that's been frustrating before. But I've also brought Slut Talk to campuses and colleges, so that can be helpful. But we did this show. I did this show Kiss and Tell, where I was the host, but I always do a dialogue, and those were themed. And we didn't do one specifically on like trans rights, but we did do one specifically on sex work, and one of our sex workers was a trans woman. We did one on like just periods, and I had two guests, both cis women, one was white, one was black, talking about PPMD.
PMDD. Yeah, the initials.
Yeah, great. And so those shows, each one had a theme. We did misogynoir, which is like Black women specific misogyny, which happens a lot within the community. And so when I have conversations like that, you know, in the classroom, I don't get to do it as often. I can bring in guest lecturers, but in the classroom, I try to just, you know, decolonize my syllabus and just I don't teach like cis white dudes. Like you don't read cis white dudes in my class, you know? But as a performer and a host, I do try to decenter myself as the expert, especially anytime I'm not of the community. And yet, as an educator, you do also have to know the moments when this is a teachable moment versus an experiential moment. Because you can be of a community and have had experiences and also not have a lot of, been given a lot of awareness or understanding about some of the just like cultural things that are always going to affect your experience. And I just think critical thinking is so important. I'm a huge advocate of education, not just traditional education, but you know, you don't know what you don't know.
That's it. That's a good Gemini season mantra. I know I just want to pivot a little bit here because I think that there's so much that, you know, in your experiences you could offer. But I think one of the reasons I specifically wanted to talk to you now, and when you reached out, I was like, oh, this could work for the Gemini new moon, is this thing about like storytelling, because you have your story and your experience, and thank you for sharing that so beautifully. And like you said, you try to decenter yourself, but you have to hand over the mic to someone and they have to learn how to tell their own story. So I would love to hear from you of like, you know, what is going from the educational, you know, traditional route, and then also from this concept of like putting together stand-up and storytelling. What would be tips of like, if someone's looking to begin to tell their story, whether it's just on Instagram or writing a book or stand-up comedy, what would be some of those tips for the storytelling?
If you don't have a journal and like a pen you like I have it in front of me. Like I really believe in longhand writing. So one thing I do, especially when I'm feeling frustrated, is I set a timer. If 5 minutes is all you can do, fine, do 5 minutes. So I would get in the practice of actually physically writing and journaling. No one has to see it or read it. If you already do that and that's the norm and you're looking for something a little more organized, Slut Talk does have a virtual writing workshop.
Okay.
But I love writing prompts. And if you don't, I could probably think of some sites, but a great way to have a writing prompt is like a song you love. You know, like put on a song you love and just start writing about, does it make you think of a memory? What does it make you think of? The biggest challenge to telling our story is the often uncovered, untapped emotions that come out. And so if you're feeling blocked because of that, again, I would just be really compassionate with yourself, you know, and again, take it one step at a time. Maybe say, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to write about the story, or maybe you have a trusted friend, you know, that you feel comfortable telling it to, you know. I've worked with a lot of people who are telling their stories for the first time, you know, and I think the most important part you need is to feel safe. So maybe you need to discover what makes you feel safe as well. And so for me, you know, I need to feel uninterrupted. Like I said, I have pens I like, I have a notebook I like.
I like the prompt of a song idea. Okay. And, you know, I'm sorry, I'm going to circle back because you're also, we talked about, you're a gender studies adjunct professor, and we had a little bit of conversation offline. But someone at Melodramatic Soul and Jerry Papa Arden said something about asking you to elaborate that gender identity is a choice. Is that what you meant, or we don't like have to talk about? I don't know if they asked about
Yeah,
that.
I might have. Well, so this is really tricky in this current age right now, and you may find different opinions, but partially what I was taught and what I've adopted. So, sex and gender are two different things. So, sex categories are based on chromosomes, and then they are the body parts we end up having in penis or vagina. And that's the gender, that's the sex binary that we've created in America. There are people who are born with different chromosomal dynamics. I'm not super versed in that.
Okay.
Usually, what happens when that happens is parents and doctors make a decision and they decide that that child is going to have the sex organs that usually go with the chromosomes.
Okay.
So that's just a little backstory there. But basically, when you're born, the doctor looks at your body and says, boy, girl. That's where all the confusion starts, right there. And your parents go, okay, you have a penis, you're a boy. Now, blue, now, trucks, now, sports. So all of that stuff after the sex category, from the moment someone says boy, that's gender. So gender is created around sex categories to help humans organize who they are, how they are. It really goes back to the fucking Bible and just like Christianity ruining the party every time, because we have this mythical story of Adam and Eve and what the woman did to fuck it all up, you know, and we've then assigned categories throughout the whole history of humanity. But the truth of the matter is that, or as we're beginning to be more open to, is gender is fluid. Gender is not girl, boy, male, female. Gender is the whole rainbow of expressions where someone can feel their identity. And, you know, one of the things we forget is that because we live in America, we have the privilege to even explore gender fluidity, to take gender studies classes. Now, I'm not saying we should be so grateful for it, because trust me, the system is a mess. But we haven't, in a mainstream way, talked about gender as like a social construct. And if you'll notice, this just happened to me. I'm applying for jobs at universities, and they'll do the please identify your gender. It will actually say identify your gender, and then the drop down is male, female. That's
Still for a university?
That's your set. Yeah.
Come on, no, that's so tired. That's so, I can't believe at a university. I mean, maybe like somewhere you go to some stodgy old like doctor's office somewhere in like Bumblefuck, but like really, okay, well, yeah, that's
no. Like the thing is, people don't know, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to use gender because it's PC," like because it's not, you know, sex, but they don't understand, you know, the difference. And even if you look at journalism now, people keep using the word female, and I'm like, we don't use that word. Like, I mean, that's a whole other section of what I teach. But again, female is biology. We use that to categorize plants, animals, all kinds of things outside of humanity. So a human woman is not a female. Not to mention, you could be a female genetically and identify as a man.
right.
That's the gender piece.
All right. Well, thank you for walking us through that. And of course, if anyone has
me if you want.
we also have, you know, Dre came on last Friday, and we have the recording on YouTube where we did a great talk about like trans inclusionary language and just how to have more awareness around that and some of these constructs. So, you know, I think to wrap up, I think the thing that I definitely want to make sure everyone because this thing you just said about like that fucking application makes me so angry. And we really need, I think, more like what I think is going to shift society is storytelling, is watching a Netflix series on something, because the people who need to be educated about what we talked about gender, about different experiences, or about a life that's just not mine, or things I wasn't raised to think, or things that my parents didn't teach me. How we learn that is usually through storytelling. Oh my God, I read an amazing book. Most likely it's normally a TV show you want to binge, like, let's be honest. And even I love documentaries so much, but chances are if you're not interested in a subject, you're not going to sit through a 2-hour like dense documentary on a different area of life. So I think that humor and storytelling, especially if it's a little raunchy and it's captivating, and there's just that like I need to watch this and learn about this. I think that's the way that a lot of this will shift. So I think that your idea for prompts, writing things out, so important. And I definitely would love anyone who's watching this maybe to figure out how they want to reach out to you, if they would love to either share their story in like your happy hour, or on Slut Talk or Kiss and Tell, or whatever you're doing like digitally right now. So where and how can people like find you, and are you taking applicants for any like open mic stuff now?
Yeah, so everything is sort of in a virtual shift right now, not just because of COVID, but also because my show ran live in Chicago, and I left for a year to take a university job. And so now that job's over too. So it's all a little in flux. But you can find Instagram's a great place to reach out to me. My website is aliciaswiz.com, and then it's wearesluttalk.org. And there's like a submission form. I'm going to start on Slut Talk asking for submissions for like selfies with a story. Because I just started doing that with myself. I started putting myself out on Slut Talk more, and I think that's been really building community. So if you are not afraid to like put your face on the internet with a story, then
let's do it. Or if you are, if you're a little afraid, it could be a fun exploration in like a safe container to be seen, tell your story. So maybe everyone taking this Gemini new moon, I love the idea of listening to a song and thinking about that song as a prompt and writing about your experience, and maybe just seeing what comes up this Gemini new moon. And if you feel like, hey, you know what, I got something here I want to share. And I love that Instagram idea, because you could just share a paragraph. It doesn't have to be this full, script, or full like, stand up, your whole shtick, your whole routine mapped out. It could just be like, this is a story that I want to share. So awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, Alicia. Everyone, I'll link to your Instagram in our profile. And is there anything else coming up, or anything else we can get to, or something that just feels really present for you right now?
I'm doing tarot readings and intro astrology readings. So if you want a tarot read with a more like feminist bent, and then my astrology readings are very intro for people who like haven't really explored it before. Because again, I keep it a little more like a little levity, a little fun with it. Cool. But I'm working on my website, so that's going to launch in a couple weeks. But I'm still online. You can find me anywhere.
Awesome.
Slide into those DMs.
Slide into the DMs. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story, for telling us how we could share a story, and all that. Super, super interesting. Awesome. So I'll link to the stories. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching.
Thank you, Maddie.
And I'll get in touch. Okay. Bye. Bye, Alicia.
Appreciate you.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.